Repetition without variation gets ignored, but repetition with variation gets remembered. Welcome to the Foster Your Voice podcast with me, Christy Foster. After a 30-year career in music and theater, I never imagined I'd be coaching trial attorneys. But once I entered your world, I quickly realized how critical and underutilized voice is in the courtroom. The truth is, you don't win trials with brute strength. You win with your voice. I'll give you tools to unlock your voice so you can communicate not just with purpose, but on purpose. If you want quick action tips to help you stay calm and in control, keep jurors engaged, and inspire your listeners to action, all through the power of your voice, you're in the right place. I'm Christy Foster, and I'm here to help you foster your voice. Hello, Foster fam. Hey, welcome back. Hope you're doing well and are enjoying your spring. Today, we're going to talk about how you can optimize juror learning. But before we dive in, let's talk about social media quick. I don't think a single one of us can say that we've avoided social media. And honestly, I think there's a lot to enjoy about it. I personally really like being on the socials and all the ways that I can stay connected to folks online that I would really struggle to stay connected with otherwise. But along with these platforms comes something totally new, an entirely new career, the influencer. Now, this was not on the list at career day when I was in high school, and now totally normal. Now, being fairly active on the socials, I run across these personalities and posts regularly. But ironically, until I saw this one particular reel, I didn't quite understand how I was getting drawn in. I'm putting the link to the reel in the show notes and encourage you to watch it. It's from an online influencer of sorts. His handle is @etymologynerd. And he's broken down the influencer voice. You can see right away why I was immediately drawn to watching it and why it perked my interest because of voice, the influencer voice. But it was really fascinating. And as I was watching it, I had this moment of, oh, this isn't just interesting. This is really shaping how people communicate everywhere. Now, he breaks down exactly how influencers are strategically using their voice to beat the algorithm and get more retention from their audience. As a guy that makes educational content, he uses a fast-speaking cadence with hardly any pauses to get your attention and keep you listening. And then there are others that shout at you and use exaggerated, sensational language to elicit emotional responses that keep you leaning in. And then there's the lifestyle influencers who upspeak, "Hey guys," as a way to keep the energy suspended so you keep listening in order to subconsciously get to the resolve. It's wild and also true. As Adam says, that's his real name, Adam, people are modifying the way that they talk because it algorithmically works. It's better at going viral. These are all linguistic techniques that have evolved over time to capture my online attention. And none of it is accidental. This is trained, patterned, and reinforced behavior. This guy, Adam Alexic, wrote a book called Algospeak, How Social Media is Transforming the Future of Language. I've linked it in my show notes, but I think this concept is fascinating. And as a professional orator and courtroom communicator, you need to be paying attention to this. Okay, so I know we're living in an age where people have limited attention spans. So I understand how tempting it is to use some of these influencer accents in real life interactions. to speak fast so they get hooked, to use sensationalized language that triggers quick emotional responses, or to use an overly casual lingo to bridge relationships and build rapport. But here's my hot take, and where I'm going to push back a little. Because it's tempting to bring these patterns into real life communication, I think that's a mistake. These tactics work for how people consume content online. They don't work for real life. For online content, everything is short. We're talking 90-second reels and YouTube shorts, under a minute. They're not long enough for the listener to reach cognitive load, and that is just not true in the courtroom. Online content is also consumed by an individual in the comfort of their own space, in comfy, personalized environments, and in the palm of their hand where they have total control. I mean, maybe control is a bit much, since we do know there's lots of research being done about how addictive social media is. But you know what I mean. They at least hold the controller, their phone. And again, none of these elements are true for jurors. They're in an unfamiliar, formal space with no autonomy, no control, and no comfort. They need a different mode of communication from you that fits the environment and the platform, so to speak, that they're on. This isn't TikTok, and to cater to a TikTok model of communication would be a mistake. Jurors don't need constant stimulation. They need structure and they need clarity. And when you use an influencer style delivery in that environment, like when you talk too fast, or when you use volume and blustery body language to create impact, when you don't pay attention to vocal patterns, you don't increase engagement. You increase cognitive fatigue. This really warrants some ongoing analysis and conversation, because this will continue to be prevalent and impactful for you as an influential and in-person communicator. This isn't going away. These patterns are only going to become more common, which means you need to be more intentional than ever about how you communicate in the courtroom. Not louder, not faster, but smarter. I think I'm going to get his book. Let me know if you've already read it and what you notice for yourself online or in the socials. What kind of influencers do you pay attention to, or who are the ones that capture your attention? And can you see these types of trends, these trends of accents that they use? I'm for sure going to be paying closer attention to this, and I hope you will too. Hey, real quick, if your jurors look confused when you say liability, standard of care, or damages, they're not tuning out because they don't care. They're tuning out because they don't speak law. I've put together a free guide called Top 20 Legal Terms to Avoid and What to Say Instead. It'll help you simplify your language without losing credibility, so your message actually lands. Download it now at fostervoicestudio.com/top20 or click the link in the show notes. All right, back to the episode. You may not know this, but my background is in education. I have a master's in teaching, and I spent years in both private and public school classrooms before moving into educational theater. So when I talk about communication, I'm always thinking like a teacher. And every teacher will tell you repetition matters, but not the kind that sounds like mom, 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 mom. That's not effective repetition. That's just noise. Effective repetition stems from creativity, saying the same thing but using different modalities to do so. This helps kids who are visual learners, kids who are auditory learners, and kids who are kinesthetic learners. Approaching the same concept but from different tactics reinforces the learning. There's a great article I found from educatorworld.com, and I've linked it in the show notes, that breaks down the science of repetition for us. The article says, our brains are wired to respond positively to repetition. When we encounter information repeatedly, neural pathways strengthen, making it easier to recall that information later. It's like building a sturdy bridge in our minds. The more we walk across it, the stronger it becomes. Repetition without variation gets ignored, but repetition with variation gets remembered. And so you see this play out in elementary schools. Learning times tables. They make up multiplication chants, that's auditory. They use flashcards, that's a visual. And they create little hand tricks for helping students work out problems quickly, that's kinesthetic. Learning social studies. They use timelines, experiment reflections and journaling, and interactive geography games. Different modalities to build stronger bridges in the mind. So, newsflash, what worked for elementary school also works for the courtroom. There's no reason not to repeat key ideas in varied ways with varied methods, especially if you need those key ideas to guide decision making. Remember, you are a high-stakes communicator, which means you're imparting knowledge not just for the sake of learning, but for the purpose of decision-making. So you need the information to move out of short-term working memory and get to the places of the brain where it can really encode and connect with their neurology. Repetition will do this. It will strengthen their neural encoding. So repeat, repeat, repeat. But be really patient in the teaching section of your opening. Be creative in all the ways that you can reinforce your key points. Reinforce them from different angles, because repetition with novelty, that's what will actually stick. Until next time, keep fostering your voice. Thanks for pulling up a seat with me today and for being part of the Foster fam. Make sure you're subscribed to the podcast so you don't miss a single episode. And while you're at it, go ahead and leave a review or a comment so I can give you a shout out on a future episode. During the week, you can find me on Instagram at Foster Voice Studio, where I'm dropping little nuggets of vocal technique and leadership wisdom. You can also join my mailing list by visiting fostervoicestudio.com or by clicking the link in the show notes. I'll send a weekly vocal tip every Tuesday directly to your inbox. Until then, keep fostering your voice.